Today we're going to start a new unit. We're going to do solving absolute value and inequalities. What do you guys remember about absolute value? It's okay to say I don't really remember anything. Okay, so absolute value is the distance of something from zero. So for this one, A, the bars around it mean absolute value. You guys can switch your phone for a calculator on the back wall. Try to get here on time and grab the notes because we are starting. So how far away is 22 from zero? Come sit over here, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll work. How far? How far away, if you think of a number line, if there's zero, how far away is 22? How far away is 22? Not a trick question. It's 22. What about negative 17? How far away is negative 17 from zero? So this is a distance. So a distance is always positive. So it doesn't really matter if I say how far away am I from the door or how far away is the door from me. It's still going to be the same distance. And so how far away is negative 17 from zero? It's just a distance of 17. So what do you guys notice? What do you do when you're working with absolute value? What do you do if the number is positive? That's this one. What do we do? What did we do here? The number inside was positive. How far away was it? It was the same, right? What about when the number inside is negative? It's the same. You just don't put the negative, right? So everything inside an absolute value, when you take it out, it's going to be same thing, but positive. So what if I asked you how far away positive 17 is? How far away is that? 17. So we have to know that it doesn't really matter if it's positive or negative. You're still going to get the same value. It's still a distance of 17. The next part that we're going to do, we're going to use these values and plug them in to solve. So for A, it says the absolute value of 4 times P. Well, P is up here. P is equal to -3. So I'm going to rewrite that. So that is still the absolute value of 4, and it says P is -3. Well, what's 4 times -3? -12. So it equals the absolute value of -12. Well, what is that? It's just 12, right? The next question, it's saying -6 times the absolute value of 2 times Q minus 7. I want you to try to rewrite that, just substituting in that value. So try and rewrite it. We're just substituting in that value. So make sure that you make the bars big so that you don't think they are a 1. Alex, I like your sweater. Did y'all get the same thing so far? Okay, we're going to keep evaluating it. So it's still -6 on the outside. So 2 times 5, we get 10 minus 7. I'm going to rewrite it again. So -6. And then what's 10 minus 7? 3. Okay, what's the absolute value of 3? Just 3. So this is -6 times 3, -18. Did y'all get the same thing so far? Absolute value. Yes, Keterin. Are you raising your hand? Oh, okay. Any questions so far? Some of you need to start asking questions because some of you are really struggling. You're struggling on the homework. You're struggling on the quizzes. You struggled on the test. That's not going to change unless you change. So you're going to have to start asking questions. Is anybody stuck or you don't understand what we've done so far? Okay. The other problem is that you tune out when you think, oh, I got it. You can't tune out yet. We've got this big paragraph here of steps. So we're going to go through. When we go to solve absolute value problems, we have to first isolate the variable, or sorry, isolate the absolute value. That just means get whatever is inside there. I'm just going to put that by itself. That means there can't be other stuff over there. You can't add something over there. You can't be multiplying the absolute value. It has to be by itself. So you're going to get the absolute value by itself. And there can be stuff inside there. You just need to get it all by itself. The next step. If the absolute value is equal to, and this is really important, some of you will work out problems and you'll wish that you had remembered this step. If the absolute value is equal to a negative number, stop. Stop if the absolute value is equal to a negative number, because it can't. And you just proved that to me up here. It didn't matter what the absolute value was. It was always equal to something positive. Didn't matter. Always positive. Always positive. Okay, the absolute value has to be equal to something positive. This one was different because there was a number in front. So whatever you get, it has to be positive. So stop there, because if it is equal to a negative number, there are no solutions. And I'm going to show you graphically why. Just a second, my calculator is loading. I am going to graph absolute value for you and show you what it looks like. So I'm typing into my calculator. Y is equal to X. And then I'm going to show you what the graph looks like. The graph looks like that. So when are the y values negative? When is the graph down here? Is it ever down there? No, that's why it can't be equal to negative numbers. So if I asked you, when is this graph equal to -4? Never, it's never down here. That's why graphically it does not work. Okay, continuing on. If the absolute value is equal to a positive number, we're going to break the problem into two cases. The reason why we have to break it into two cases is because of this. Because this says that the absolute value of 17 is 17. The absolute value of -17, it's also 17. So that's why we have to break it into two cases. Once we break it into two cases, we will solve each equation. This is big. This is more than any other time that you've been working problems. We always know that we can check. I mean, there's lots of times when you can check. Here's one where checking isn't, like, it's not just an option to see if you got the right answer. Like, you have to, because there are extraneous answers. There's answers that are extra that don't work. And you don't know that unless you check. So you have to check both solutions. And if you want to tell yourself how, you check both solutions by plugging them in. And you plug them into the original, I'm going to put OG, you're going to plug them into the original equation. Okay, you plug them into that original equation. So this is all going to make a little bit more sense once we actually start going through and solving a problem. Example A. The absolute value of x plus 8 is equal to 12. Okay. Looking at the absolute value. And so this is where I could take, and it doesn't matter what's inside. Here is just the absolute value. Is it by itself? Is it isolated? We're not adding anything to it. We're not multiplying by anything. Is it by itself? Yes, then we can move on. That's this part. Isolate the absolute value. Here. It doesn't matter what's inside. Is it by itself? No, because there's something else over on the equals on this side. Because we're adding 8 to it. So this one, not by itself. So this one is by itself because there's nothing else over here on the equal side. On this side. This one, this one is by itself because there's nothing else over here. This one, not by itself because there's this. It also would not be by itself if there was a multiplying over here. It would also not be by itself if we were dividing by. Does that make sense? That's what it means to isolate. You can only have the square root. Once you have this only the square root, then it says what? What's step 2? What are we doing in step 2? What are we looking for? Is it equal to a negative? So here, is it equal to a negative? No. Okay, well then step 3 says if it's equal to a positive, well then let's solve it. So let's solve it. So we're going to break it into two cases. What that means is I'm going to split it. And this is how you are able to remove the absolute value. So I'm going to remove the absolute value and I get x plus 8 on one side. I'm going to get x plus 8 on the other. The first one is going to look identical without the absolute value brackets. So equals 12. The second one, we have to change the sign. So I have it exactly the way it looked. And then the other one has to be equal to negative 12. And this is because when you take the square root, you have both of those cases. And now we just solve it. You solve two of them. When I look at the one on the left, it's a simple one-step equation. I'm adding 8, so I will subtract 8. 12 minus 8, what's that? 4. Okay, so we solved it. We got 4. I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. I'm adding 8, so I need to subtract 8. Negative 12 minus 8, what do we get? What kind of 20? Negative 20. All right, so we have 2 answers. What do we do with our 2 answers? Check them. Good job, Devin. We check them. And so this is really important. So I'm going to go through and now I'm going to check these. And to check them, I'm just plugging them into the original equation. So I'm going to check down here. And you might have to just put it off to the side wherever you can fit it in. When I did my worksheet, I kind of had to put them right here. You just put them where you can fit it. You just want to make sure that you're checking. So what I'm doing is I'm plugging these into the original equation. So I have to do it twice. So I get the absolute value of 4 plus 8. I'm trying to see, is it equal to 12? And then I get the absolute value of negative 20 plus 8. Is that equal to 12? So the one on the left, I get 4 plus 8, and that's the absolute value of 12. Does that equal 12? Yeah, that one's good. It works. The one on the right, so I have negative 20 plus 8. So I get negative 12, or absolute value of negative 12. Is that also equal to 12? Yeah, so it works. So I can go through and I can box both of my solutions. They both work. You could also write them as a list. X is equal to 4 comma negative 20. X is equal to negative 20 comma 4. Any of those things work. The next problem, again, the absolute value, it's not by itself. So what do we do to get the absolute value by itself? We have to go through, we first have to subtract 8. So negative 8 plus 3 or 3 minus 8, we get negative 5. Now what? Why? Okay, Jacob, you guys are right. Yep, we have to stop. So what is our answer? Can't be equal to a negative. So write this down because you want to remind yourself when you're looking at your notes. So your answer for this one, no solution. No solution. Let's do the next one. Is this absolute value by itself? No. So this is when we have to do P's MD. You can't do PEMDAS. You have to do P's MD. You have to work backwards. You always have to take care of the addition subtraction first. So we will add 5. And then what? Divide by 3. We need to get rid of that 3. And I'm sorry, I didn't give you guys a whole lot of room to work on your paper. Did I isolate my variable? Yeah. Am I equal to a negative? No. So I can split it and solve. So as I split it and solve, one will look exactly the same, just minus the absolute value bars. And then the second one, it'll look identical. You just change the sign. Now we're going to solve them. So the one on the left, we need to get the x by itself. So we will add 3. And then last, I'm multiplying by 2. So to undo multiply, I divide. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Good job. So there's one of my possible solutions. I don't know yet until I check, but that's one of my solutions. The one on the right, I'm subtracting 3, so I need to add 3. What's negative 3 plus 3? 0. I do the same last step. I need to divide by 2. What's 0 divided by 2? You have a calculator, so if you are unsure, you could always type it in. And it's just 0, so don't freak out and think you did something wrong. 0 is also a number. Would y'all like to see how to type this into the calculator so that you can check? Huh? Yeah, that would be helpful. Let me pull up my calculator. Let me make you smaller. To check this, I'm going to go ahead and jot down how I'm going to check it. So the one on the left, as I plug it in, it will look like this. You should write this down too. I'm checking to see if that, when I type it in, does it equal 4? And I'm going to write it down again. And I'm going to use 0 this time. So I'm going to type it in 2 times and I have a 3 there and I have a 0. So I'm going to plug it in twice. I'm going to make sure I get 4 both times. So the first thing that I see is the 3. So I'm going to type in a 3. So you should do this with me so that you can find the buttons. So I type 3. And then the next, we're going to do the absolute value bars. Does anybody know where those are? Anybody have any idea? And that's okay to say no, because I doubt you've ever been shown where they are. So the absolute value, to get to absolute value, you're going to press the math button. You press the math button and then you arrow over 1 time and then you'll see ABS. And when you see ABS, you press enter. Wow, now I have absolute value bars. And so then I'm going to type in the stuff that I see inside using parentheses. So it's 2 and then parentheses 3 minus 3. And then to get out of the absolute value bars, I have to arrow over and then I have to do minus 5. Did it equal 4? Yay, it equals 4. So I'm going to go and I'm going to check that one. It's good. Good news, you don't have to type all that again. You can either arrow up and press enter once you see it, or you can press the second button, enter will pop back up on your screen what you just had. Because we're typing in the same exact thing. All we need to do is go change that 3 to a 0. So I can arrow over and I'm going to change that 3 to a 0. When you do that one, does it work? Yay, they both work. When you are doing your quiz, I don't care if you use the calculator to check, but what I do care is that you show me that you plugged them in. So you can still write these down and then you can say, yes, they worked or no, they didn't. Is everybody able to check them in their calculator? Anybody not know where that button is? All right, the next one. This one has the absolute value on the other side. That's okay. Is the absolute value by itself? No, there is a 2 over there and it's multiplying. So when we bring it over, we have to divide everything by 2. And as I rewrite it, 8 can divide by 2, so can 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now do I have my absolute value by itself? Okay, this one's harder to evaluate if it's equal to a negative or not. So we're going to assume that it's not, and we're going to start working it. So we're going to split it into 2. And this one, remember, you make one and it looks identical, just no absolute value bars. It looks identical, just no absolute value. The other one has to be identical, but the stuff on the other side has to be negative. So be careful because we need to make all of that stuff negative. Since there was 2 pieces over there, we're going to have to make both of those things negative. So I'm working on the right side first, just so that we know how to deal with that negative. It becomes negative 4x. Oh, that should have been a plus. Minus 2. Now I can solve both of them. When we're dealing with these, both of them, we have variables on both sides. So if I start with the one on the left, I have a 4x and I have a 6x. 6x is bigger. So I'm going to bring the 4x over. Six minus 4 is 2. So I have to take care of the addition subtraction first. So I'm subtracting 2, so I have to add 2. And then I have one last step. I'm multiplying by 2, so I have to divide by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. That's one of my solutions. Yeah. On the other side, I have a negative 4 and a positive 6, so 6 is still bigger. So I'm going to bring the 4 over. This time I'm adding 4. So I get 10x minus 2. I still want to get the x by itself, so I need to add 2. I get 0, that's okay. And last, I will divide by 10. What's 0 divided by 10? 0, it's okay. Not what I meant. So I have my 2 possible solutions, x equals 0 and x equals 2. I'm not sure. I need to make sure that I check them. To check them, I'm going to jot down what I see and I'm going to plug it in for 2 and 0. So I get 4 times 2 plus 2 equals absolute value. And I also have to check the other one. Again, we can use our calculator. Let me show you how you would check with this one. So this one's a little different, right? Because we've got the stuff on both sides. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is type it in. And I'll clear everything so we can see it on the top. So it's 4 times 2 plus 2 is on the left. So 4 and then parentheses 2 plus 2. So this is on the left side. And when I press enter, I get 10. So then I'm going to type in the right side. The right side is absolute value. So I have to press math, arrow over 1 time, absolute value. And so it's absolute value 6 times 2 minus 2. And we need to just make sure that they give you the same answer. Do they? Yeah. So that one works. I can go over and I can say this first one is good. It works. For the second one, you already typed everything in, so you don't have to type everything in again. What you can do is you can either arrow up to the first one and then arrow up to this one, or you can press second, enter. And if you do it again, second, enter again, it pulls up the first thing you typed in. And all I have to do is change that to, I have to change it to a 0. And then I can press second, enter. It pulls up what I just typed in. That's not what I need. I need the other one. So I press second, enter again, and it pops up the second one. And again, I have to go through and change that 0 to 0. And did those equal itself? Yep, so that one works as well. Both of them work. Okay, I think we're going to stop there. And what I want you guys to do is, I think the front side of your homework is solving, right? The back side has the inequalities. I'm expecting that you finish that front side before you leave today. Just before class ends, we're going to grade our calculator homework. So if you needed to use a calculator to type some of those things in, that's fine. I'm going to put a timer up on the screen so that you know we'll grade the last 5 minutes of class. So that gives you 40 minutes to finish that up and to do the front side of your homework. A lot of you are struggling because you don't use this time to get started, like going to sleep, not helping your grade. Yes, sir. Mhm. I'm also going to pass out your your tests. Some of you need to do corrections so that you can retake. So if you need to do corrections, this is also a great time to get that done.